Hayes' Hard Drive brings to you your favorite musicians. Now, here he is, Delane, with today's artist interview.
My next guest has been called one hell of a guitar player by Bruce Springsteen. She has been nominated for 6 Blues Music Awards. Nearly all of her albums have reached the top of the Billboard charts, and she's appeared on the cover of both Vintage Guitar and Guitar Player magazine. She has shared the stage with B.B. King, Buddy Guy, Jeff Beck, and Joe Bonamassa. Welcome to Hayes' Hard Drive, Ana Popovic. Ana, thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you. Good. Thanks for calling. I'm excited. That's great.
Well, I know that most blues guitarists, whether being male or female, have not had the same experience as you have, especially since, you grew up in Belgrade, Serbia. And, how did you fall in love with the blues?
My father had a large collection of records, and I started listening to blues on a very early age. And that's basically all we were listening to from when I remember music, really, 3-4 years old. And we got to listen to Elmer James and Howlin' Wolf and Albert King and Albert Collins and Booker White and Stevie Ray Vaughan, Hendrix, Clapton, this was just a natural thing for me. So, our house and a part of the house that was, that was filled with instruments, amps and guitars and music magazines that we used to call the Blue Room. That was like our little oasis, where we would meet after school later on and after work for my parents, and we would just jam. That's how I got in. I fell in love with live playing and just spending time with guitars.
But before you kind of fell into this whole thing alone and going out, you actually had a band back in the mid 90s called Hush. And you guys kind of, all the way up until 98 or so before the band disbanded, and you decided that you were going to move to the Netherlands to study jazz guitar. Looking back at that decision to do that, how important was this to you, to your career, to just everything that now looking back, over 20 years ago that you've accomplished?
You mean the move?
That move, going to the Netherlands to study jazz guitar versus, staying in the band and pursuing what you guys had going on.
Oh, it was crucial, of course, and I'm glad that I saw it at that time. Nowadays times changing, but maybe just in the last few years. But basically, before that, even a few years back, there still is the band from anywhere in Europe would ask me, what do I suggest for them as far as breaking through the blues market? I would say you can't stay. You can't stay in Holland. You can't stay in Germany. Belgium. This is not the place where you're going to build, your career as a blues artist. So for me, that was crucial because I moved to Holland and. I signed very soon after that a contract with a record label that was actually releasing records in the States, and I think that was the most important thing that I had going. Of course, as far as learning your instruments and everything, I started back in Serbia, and I had some jazz lessons back in Serbia, and then I went to study Jazz Academy and World Music and Pop Academy in the Netherlands, but at the same time, I was actually working on my career in the States. However, it was way easier to do that from Amsterdam than that would have been from Belgrade, Serbia. So I think that was a very crucial moment. And of course, 20 years ago, I decided to, after I moved, to form my band under my own name, Ana Popovic Band, and I started touring at the same time studying music. But I think touring and building your name, my name was crucial for my career then. And that I guess that just the decision to abandon my graphic design future as a graphic designer, because I studied and I graduated from a graphic design school and just become 100% full-time musician was, you know, it was huge at that time. I mean, there was no other act coming from the Eastern Europe, not even from Europe. I mean, of course, there's the British invasion back in a day, but even nowadays, there's not a lot of bands and musicians that make a living in the States coming from the Eastern, you know, Europe or Europe at all, you know.
You know, I think that's great. I was going to ask you even before you mentioned it. You know, you had a career doing something that you know, you would have surely flourished in doing, because it's obvious you're such a hard worker that being a graphic designer, you would have been great. But you said, all right, I can't do plan B. I have to put all of my work into doing plan A. I want to be a musician. And that's, man, it's such an awesome thing. And I think the reason why that is, Ana, is because it's such a, you know, it's something that I don't think that many people can do. We're too scared to live our dreams, to do those type of things that, hey, I don't know if it'll all work out, but I'm going to give it everything that I have. And it surely has been a great career for you, because in 2001, like you said, you went to Memphis, you recorded the album Hush, and I'm sure that was just a surreal experience for you to, you know, I'm finally here, I'm finally doing it.
Oh, totally. And I mean, I'm sure it's even for American, you know, musicians that are just, you know, when you're a kid and you're practicing guitar and you're listening to all this great, the fact that you're going to go to Memphis and record, you know, with producers that produced some of the greatest artists of all time, that's still, you know, a dream come true, let alone if somebody coming from another continent. It was huge. And nowadays, now that I'm doing the 20-year anniversary shows, and I'm actually picking some songs off of all of the records, obviously, and off of that first one, I am just pleasantly surprised, because I'm not one of the musicians that keep listening to my old stuff. I never listen to my music, old or new. But I was a little skeptical, but thinking, oh my gosh, I gotta pick some of those songs that I wrote when my English was not great. Right? You're writing. You can cover other people's stuff all day long, coming from Europe, but that first record was really a first time me writing serious stuff in English, and I was a little skeptical. Now when I chose some songs and I sent it to the band, and I was like, let's give it a second life to these songs, and I was pleasantly surprised how good quality, you know, the songs were, the lyrics, the guitars, the solos, the sounds, obviously the production, you know. And I feel back then I also was kind of pushing for that different sound, and I was pushing for my own sound, no matter if it was Memphis or whoever produced the record. I even then, being 22 or whatever, I was pushing for my own sound, to be different, to be based on blues, but, you know, to be recognizable. And I think even then you can sense that, and you can feel that and hear that in the music, which was a nice surprise for me now that I was looking back at those songs.
You know, Ana, that is something that until you just mentioned it, it didn't even cross my mind that that there was in your writing about you know, having to your English and how that was translating into the music that you were playing. Now that you were not covering music, you were writing your own stuff. Was that something that you felt that you struggled with at the time in 2001 as you began to do that? Or was it something you felt, you know what, I've got a pretty good handle on my English and my ability to write music?
You know, I certainly found joy in it. I mean, I found excitement in writing, you know, and my writing went through phases. First phase was, I guess, you know, I know a few cool sentences. Let me just put them down on the paper and maybe they will create a song. Then it went through you know, reliving somebody else's stories. Okay, I heard that story. Let me just put it down. And then finally, when it was time to record "Still Making History," and that was a very political record, and really, came from my experiences living in the Milosevic regime and back home, and having the student demonstrations every year and trying to change your reality for the better one. That's when I really started writing from my own experience. So every year and every record has different, in a way, different circumstances when it's about writing. And I went through every process really with joy. I was discovering new stuff about me as a writer and about what I want to tell to my audience. I want to inspire them. You only have a handful of songs every 2 years or 10 songs on the record, and you might as well just bring out a message or inspire people or give something that's yours, give them something intimate. And it was just always been a very, very enjoyable experience, the writing, and I never give up on my songs. So some of those songs I have seen the light of day 10 years later, but I never give up on the songs. They're always stored someplace, and if they didn't meet the expectations, they're saved for later, when I'm going to address them. But that's how I write. So even nowadays it's changing. The way I write is changing. That's why none of the records sound like the previous one. I always try to bring in something new and something different that's also going to be Ana Popovic. But main motivation really are my fans, especially the ones that's been with me for many years. Even now on the cruise, we were doing 20-year anniversary show, and there's been people in the audience that saw me on the first tour with Michael Hill. And, those are the really the motor behind the new records. You can easily win over a new audience with a great band and all the experience that I have now. But to keep the first audience still entertained and have them want to come back, that's the motor between making new records for me.
You know what? We're going to take the audience back to that first album, Hush. And, This is one that I've really enjoyed listening to, and it brings a smile to my face, as I don't know if this one's going to be in the set list, but off the album Hush, it is Bring Your Fine Self Home. We'll be right back with more from Ana Popovic right here on Hayes' Hard Drive.
Hey, Bernard.
Yeah, baby.
Baby, you got your guitar with you?
I believe I do.
Now let's get on down and talk about the blues.
Let's play the blues, sweetheart.
Welcome back to Hayes' Hard Drive. Today, I've had the privilege to be joined by blues woman Ana Popovic. And I know you get asked this probably a lot, but what struggles, if any, have you encountered by being a female in the blues music industry, or just the music industry, period, Ana?
You know, it's always been a combination. Obviously, I came as a female guitar player and a young female guitar player back in a day when not a whole lot of women were doing that. I mean, I remember Sue Foley already had a career, Debbie Davis. I'm trying to think. There's been a few. Of course, Bonnie was a queen, and she still is.
Mm-hmm.
But just a few other women that were actually doing it. I think that was pretty hard for them to tour and do what they're doing. I don't think it was the easy time. When I came over to play, I was on top of being a female guitar player. I was European, which was very unusual. And I think the first struggles were obviously it wasn't as easy times for female fronting bands. So to get respect from your band members, to get respect from studio musicians, from the producers. On top of that, I really had a clear vision what I want with my music, and that wasn't copying American blues artists. That's for sure, because I always knew that you can't get too far with doing that, because I wasn't born in the States and I can't just go on trying to sound like them, because I won't. But at the same time, I wanted to bring something fresh and something different to the modern blues genre and the blues guitar. So I always had very strong idea how certain songs should sound, how I would play them. If I choose a song, which kind of songs I would choose to cover. So I was strong-minded. So I guess it was, I also let people, change some of my ideas, of course, because I was at the same time, I was learning, and that was my learning process. That's why I was in the States, and I wanted that input from the people that been working with such great artists. So at the same time, I would I would meet them halfway, I would say that. And that was a wonderful process. And I still do that. I still learn a lot from all my experiences, no matter what city you choose. Every city is different. I choose Memphis for some of the songs, some of the records, New Orleans, some of the records, Nashville, Los Angeles. Every city is different. People work different in different music meccas, and I just enjoy that variety and diversity. But I certainly think it became way easier for women fronting bands and being business women and juggling family with music. I think that all has changed. There's huge differences between, you're able to live your regular life now and be a businesswoman and be a front man and, taking care of your career and taking career in your own hands. And I'm glad that I think I was one of the first to do that, because I always insisted that I still want to have my regular life just right, just right. You can switch, and that's what I've been doing all this time. So I'm proud of that. You talking about some of the ladies in music. I was talking with Kenny Neal recently, and he said something that just really opened my eyes in the way that he approached the blues. He said he was working, and the story came out that he was working with a young lady that is Korean and was producing some of her music, and he just really went on to tell me about how the blues is for everybody. And he said, many people think that the blues is just for people who live, down in Louisiana or down in the bayous or, in certain parts of the United States. And, that just kind of speaks to what you're talking about and what you have also relayed. Hey, look, the blues is for everybody. Somebody who is from Serbia who has experienced protests and experienced things in their world, and how you have taken your life, put it onto paper,
created music with that, and that's really what the blues is about. No matter whether you're male, whether you're female, whether you're European, whether you're American or Korean, and I think that's really what Kenny was talking about, and also what you've been talking about. You know, this music here is it really outstretches its tentacles. You know, across the world, everybody has the blues. Everybody has situations, and me personally, that's what I love about this music. It's what I love about your music, and you know, just the fact you have had some great opportunities to play with the best guitarist of all time. I'd mentioned some of them at the top of the show. Is there one that you've played with that you always had a dream of wanting to be on stage with, that dream became reality for you?
Oh, you know, I mean, I met Buddy Guy when I was 13, and he played a show in Belgrade, and he signed my backstage pass. So, I mean, that was like one of the biggest dreams come true, you know, for me. Buddy as an icon. I opened up for Junior Wells before he passed. That was, I believe it was maybe 96. That was one of my first important shows. And Buddy, you know, I love that duo. And, you know, Buddy is one of my all-time heroes. And it was wonderful to share the stage with him. Sonny Landreth, you know, is one of my slide heroes that I always, I learned, you know, with his cassettes and with his LPs back home. And, you know, Ronnie Earl, those are the people, they really influenced my playing a lot. I mean, I've done a lot of things on my own and tried to develop my own sound, but I certainly spend hours listening to their music and their playing. So, yeah, I mean, the list is huge, but, yeah, those are just a few.
You know, you do have, I feel like whenever you can name multiple different artists that one person reminds you of, your latest album, Like It on Top. I was actually listening to the album today, and I was sitting there, I'm like, you know what, that reminds me of Kenny Wayne Shepherd and Johnny Lang. That reminds me, obviously, of Keb Mo, who produced the album. That reminds me of a more traditional blues tune, taking it back more to the old school. But then I can really hear the jazz coming out as well, and it is certainly just Ana Popovic. It just everything on this latest album that you and Keb worked together on. It is, wow. It is such a great album from top to bottom. And, you know, I, not only just a great album, but what was it like to, you know, because I know Keb Mo produced this album. He did a couple of songs on there with you. What was that like, being in the studio, working with Keb, you guys, you know, two great blues musicians coming together, putting your minds together to make this great album. What was that like?
Yeah, it was really wonderful, a wonderful experience. You know, we started in Los Angeles, and he came over to our place, and we spent a week actually at my home writing and having fun with the family. He was our guest, and we were cooking together, and you know, but you know, we would wake up at 9, start working to 5 or 6 or 7, and we would just write, you know, and it was wonderful to see that, first of all, for him to take that time off, where he's a fan of LA, right? He was born here. He grew up in LA. So you could feel that he was, you know, he was happy to be in his hometown. I love LA. You know, we had a wonderful place where we could just write, and my music room, and sit there and do all the work. So first, right there, you could see, you know, our styles are very different. Obviously, when it's about songwriting, also, you know, the performance, of course, is different, but songwriting, that's where it starts. And they were different, but we would kind of meet the halfway, and we would kind of inspire each other to try some things different. And right there, it was already, you know, just making it interesting for both of us try something new. So then I went to his home, and he has a home studio where a wonderful studio, by the way, where we recorded it, and I was a guest of his family, and he had the crew together, musicians that were just great, and even there with us recording, you could see different ways of working that I was used to and he was used to, and even then we could kind of meet halfway, and I think that we both learned from each other and just let us be surprised and excited about different ways to work. And that's what we did with Robin Ford stopped by, he played a few tracks, and Kenny Wayne Shepherd gave one song. So it was a really nice project. It was different musically than anything I've done, but that's been the way I'm doing all my records. So I want something different. And we talked about working together for the past 2-3 years. 2-3 years before we actually went into the studio, and we finally made it happen. But I thought it was time for a Nashville sound. There's also a lot of funky stuff on the record. There's some roots blues. There is, my music is based on blues, but it's a very wide spectrum of different influences. Just before Like It on Top, I had Trilogy, which was a 3 volumes records with funk and soul, with rock and blues and jazz. So that gave us so many songs, and it featured 30 plus musicians over the 3 music meccas, Memphis, New Orleans, and Nashville. So, every record I make is different. But I think one thing in common is I think, a very strong Ana Popovic signature to all of them.
Yes, and 20 years. First, Ana, congratulations. 20 years, working in this wonderful business. And as of right now, you are out on tour across the United States. And I know that through the 20 years, there's been more memories than you possibly can probably right now even conjure up through this wonderful, illustrious career. Are there any moments that just really stick out for you through your 20-year career? Anything that's happened either on stage, off stage, in the studio that really sticks out for you?
There are just every year there's more coming on, and I really can't name them all. But I mean, being nominated as the first continental European artist for the W.C. Handy Award, which is now the American Blues Music Awards, that really launched my career, and I'm very thankful. And looking back to that as really something that proved me, what I maybe can do this. For real, touring with Solomon Burke at that time was also huge. Even now, last 6 years, I was a part of the Experience Hendrix tour, which was very important because I was the only woman with a guitar alongside incredible guitar players like, Kenny Wayne Shepherd and Buddy Guy and Taj Mahal, and Johnny Lang and so many players in the last 6 years. But I think it's important for female guitar players or musicians at all to be able to, take part in those festivals that are mainly male-oriented guitar festival. Any other instrument you can take, there's majority of the male performance, and I think that is important. That should change, and I'm all for that change. And the latest record talks about it. More Like It on Top, more ladies up in the corner offices, and more ladies leaders and business ladies in any sort of male-oriented job, not only music. Those are maybe things but there's so many, in this career. I mean, take any other job, and there's no security for 20 years whatsoever. But if somebody told me I'm going to be doing this for 20 years and not less than 100 shows a year, seriously, I would think that would be impossible, back in the day. So I'm very thankful, and it just from all the music genres is actually blues and rock and guitar music, which is not the most popular in the world, right? But a lot of acts come and go, from any musical styles. But I think it's a success to be able to always provide enough shows for your band and always but at the same time have normal family life back home, and be able to switch and do what you love, but have your career in your hands. I think it's a big success for anybody, and especially women.
Absolutely. And you can check out Ana's tour dates, purchase merchandise, and learn much more about Ana by going to anapopovic.com. That is AnaPopovic.com. And Ana, once again, congratulations on celebrating 20 years. Here's to 20 years more. And you know what? We just recently talked about the title track from her recent album, Like It on Top. More women in the corner offices. I can absolutely agree. So you know what? We are going to play that song right now for you guys. I'm Delane Hayes. I've been talking with the great Ana Popovic right here on Hayes' Hard Drive.
This is how I roll. And I ain't about to stop. Can't keep a good woman down. If she likes it on top. And I like it on top. Every day of the week, I like it on top. Walking down the street, I like it on top. It feels so good, I like it on top. I like it on. This is who I am. I never give up the fight. Well, my